Hello and welcome back to the Editorial, the podcast where we discuss everything we got wrong. As always, I'm joined by Editor-in-Chief Zach Michaelis.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, good actually.
Good.
Had something happened this morning, but I won't talk about
You've
it.
talked about it like 3 times.
It's a baby-related thing. It's not very exciting.
It's gross.
Yeah, it's gross.
You don't need to say it again. The office has heard it enough. You've put us through it.
Fair enough.
As always, in today's episode, we're going to run through the most controversial videos on each of the main channels and on the podcast channel today. And then once we've done that, once we've discussed all of our contentious videos, if we have time, we'll tackle some questions from you guys. Okay, which channel should we start with?
I think we can do, most of the stuff today is going to be UK related. So I think we're going to start with EU because we can do away with it quite quickly.
Okay, let's rattle through EU.
Nothing on global. There were 2 ones
Nothing
on EU.
on global.
I know. Well, global's,
nothing controversial on
I think
global.
this happened last time as well. Global's actually got surprisingly good like-dislike ratio.
Okay, fair.
And I think, I would say one interesting thing about that is I think it reflects the fact that Trump is no longer such a polarizing topic for our audience. I think there was a point where people thought we were being too mean on Trump, and all those Trump videos got sort of like 95% like-dislike ratios. But like these days, a sort of vaguely anti-Trump video,
Everyone wants that.
yeah, reliably gets
Yeah.
like 98%. I think it's probably, it bears out in the polling, like young people have turned on Trump most.
True.
Young people are our audience, I guess that's what's happening there.
So what has fallen below 96.5% like-dislike on EU?
Well, basically 2 videos that I can see that are below the 96 threshold, and one of them is Trump's Ukraine peace plan. And I think that is an interesting one because that's a sequencing issue. We wrote that video, I think it must have been the day we got the rumors, and it came out the day that the whole plan was leaked. And
Yeah.
I think that would have frustrated some people because they were like, I wanted an analysis of the peace plan that I know has now been leaked.
Yeah.
But it also, I think, actually, the tone of that video didn't quite match up to the content of the leaked peace plan. I was reading reports at a time, and one of the things that I thought was quite remarkable about the prospective peace plans that was going to include security guarantees for Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
And so the tone of that video is actually sort of slightly optimistic. It's like, look, apparently Trump has actually squeezed what is a very meaningful concession out of the Kremlin here.
Yeah.
Security guarantees for Ukraine are a step in the right direction. And then obviously the plan itself comes out, and yes, that is sort of in there, but quite vaguely worded. And then there's also a whole load of, stuff that people really didn't like in there, right? Like the Europeans are going to pay compensation for those security guarantees.
Yeah.
Ukraine's going to have to give up its territory. Ukraine's going to have elections, there's going to be general amnesty for Russian war crimes.
Yeah.
There's going to be a re-education program in Ukraine, all this stuff. And so I think that the tone of that video, that like slightly like optimistic, maybe this is going to be okay sort of
Once
thing.
we had all the details.
Yeah, it just didn't match.
Yeah.
Right. The second one, so that's that.
Apologies for the sequence.
Yeah, I think the sequence is rough, but I think we couldn't really do much else, right? Like,
I guess it's either fully don't release the video, rework it,
yeah.
or we thought it was like good enough to release.
Yeah, and I think that I can't remember exactly when the full text came out, but I think that like the full text, like it had only been confirmed that was indeed the full text after the video was out, right?
Yeah, I think this was a particularly bad topic for us to cover, right? Because it kept coming slowly and it wasn't clear, and people were debating it that like this is a worse kind of thing because we feel an urgency to tackle the story as quick as we can so that we inform people as early as possible and kind of get ahead of the story. But equally, the story was evolving really slowly and things ended up being kind of complicated. Whereas if they just published the plan, we could have analysed that sucker so quick.
Yeah, it would have been nice. We love a good 28 points. You know what I mean? It's slightly more than the usual 3 reasons, but
so many points.
Yeah.
I think I hosted that video.
You did a good job. I genuinely, when I listened to that, I thought that actually flowed quite nicely.
Okay. Let us know in the comments what you thought of that.
But and the other thing was that obviously it was badly received in Kiev and Europe, right? So then it was immediately...
Our video or the deal?
Both, apparently.
Okay, yeah.
But the deal mainly, so it was immediately rejigged, right? And then like a couple of hours after we'd released that video, apparently we had a new 19-point police plan with the Europeans.
They kept whittling away points.
I know, and then
I'd have
Europe
rather
had its
hosted the
own
end
28-point police plan version. Yeah, I know. Anyway, so that was frustrating, and we're still actually in that sort of limbo, right? Like no one knows where the negotiations
We don't
are.
even know how many points there are now.
We're recording this on Monday. The negotiators, I think, are in Moscow. Americans, I think, are in Moscow right now talking about it. So, we might have a video that's going to be terribly sequenced for you in a day's time or so.
Wait.
Yeah. And then the one other video on EU was about the Danish Social Democrats.
Yes, the local elections.
Yes, and the title of that video had the Danish Social Democrats gone too right-wing. For people who don't know, Denmark's Social Democrats are sort of like classic centre-left establishment party who famously tacked very far to the right on immigration way back in about after the 2015 migrant crisis, basically. And they then won 3 successive elections, I think, basically. And they have since been held up as an exemplar to all other struggling centre-left establishment parties in Europe, going, why don't you just all tack right on immigration? You can
take some of those little right-wing talking points.
Yeah, exactly. And leaving aside whether or not that's true or not, it's whether or not it's actually a good idea. I think there are lots of ways in which the Danish Social Democrat situation is disanalogous to, let's say, Labour in the UK.
Well, it's famously going very well.
Exactly. But leaving aside whether or not that's true, it's a controversial thesis, right? And the title of that video is, have they gone too far right? And basically, I think some people think, no, they haven't. This is a good strategy, and we back it. And then actually, other people who would have watched to the end of that video, we basically conclude by saying, look, this is probably their lackluster results at the local elections are probably not definitive proof that strategy is bad per se, right? And there probably still is some electoral gain to be had for centre-left parties tacking successfully to the right on immigration. And I think people on the left of the political spectrum who basically think that the Social Democrats have betrayed their sort of like left-wing base by doing that were probably slightly annoyed by the fact that we were apparently endorsing that strategy, or at least saying that it might still work, right? You see what I mean? So you've got annoyed people on both sides. People looked at the title and said, no, they should be that right wing. And people who watched to the end of the video and reached the conclusion and said, no, they should be more left wing.
Okay. A rare instance where watching the video actually makes people more angry.
This is true. Always a risk for us. Yeah. So that is
that's EU covered.
That's EU covered.
So it's only UK left.
It is only UK left. Nothing on global.
A fair bit on UK.
So there is and there isn't. I mean, there's an easy one to start off with. The first one is the most recent video on UK, which is net migration is plummeting, which actually
95%.
95%, not bad. It is just immigration. I don't think there is anything controversial in that video. Rory and Ben, net migration is plummeting. Anything actually? There's nothing wrong with that video. No, there you go. Convincing.
They said no.
They said no.
Not that I know of.
No, but I think it's just a controversial topic. I don't mean to be too flippant about that, but I did edit that video and I thought it was very good.
Okay.
Thought they did a very good job. So nothing there. I just think it's an immigration video, and there's it's one of those where actually, again, quite interesting. If you read the comments, it's definitely both sides, right? So there's some people saying it's not actually falling. People on the right saying that actually it's only down from the post-pandemic super highs, right?
Sure, but
it's not actually
overall,
down to the historic average or something like that. And then there are other people saying this isn't a good thing, right? This is a symptom of basically the UK shooting itself in the foot, right? The symptom of the fact that no one wants to come here anymore, that people are emigrating. This is going to be bad for the economy. This is politically short and economically short-sighted.
Yeah.
And so, I think people's issue not necessarily with the actual content of the video, but rather the subject, right? Some people think that it's not falling far enough, and lots of people think it's falling too fast or it's falling in the wrong places.
Yeah.
So that's net migration. Then we have, I think, what is a slightly more fun one, which is
why the UK's doing better than you think.
Doing better than you think.
Ironically, a video that didn't do better than you think.
Yeah, it did, but
it performed well. Yeah, performed very well. 93.2 though, which is pretty low.
Yeah, we should say that is very low by our standards, right? I think, but broadly, I think I'd say 3 things. And I think that I wanted the video to sort of have this tone. Maybe it didn't, but here's how I'm going to defend the video. I'm going to say sort of 3 headline takeaways that I saw. I think I wanted to communicate with the video, and maybe you think I didn't match up to that, but this is basically...
Is this your pitch for Britain in 3 parts?
Yeah, I guess so, sort of. The first thing is that there were obviously lots of things wrong with the UK.
Good start.
That is not the topic of that video, so obviously we didn't go through the litany of
things. That
is
the topic of every other video.
Exactly, yes, and every other piece of news written about the UK. There is so much wrong with the UK. I don't mean to be too part-time, but not least our government, right? I think it's a bit frustratingly rubbish at the moment. But I do think a couple of things. I do just think that the mood music is still too negative. There are lots of things wrong with the UK, but the UK is still an incredibly well-functioning, frankly, it still is an incredibly rich country by international standards. And it is not like things are falling apart at the seams, as the mood music can sometimes imply, right? If you sort of glance over at Twitter, you would think that the UK...
It's awful here.
In Elon Musk's words, we're on the brink of civil war.
We are. Have you seen outside?
Exactly. Brick through the window. But yeah, and I do just think that the mood music is too negative, right? And like even around the finance stuff, you know, people are talking about us going to the IMF. This is nonsense.
I mean, we did talk about that.
We didn't actually get that video, but in that video, no, because that was the one that Tom was ill for. But in that video, we ultimately conclude, no, this is nonsense. That we didn't come out, but
it was so nonsense it made Thomas ill, so we could nominate it.
Yeah, exactly. And people are, and the mood music is too negative at the moment. Right, we're not even in a recession, right? It was ticking along a little bit, and I appreciate things could be better. But again, if you sort of like dipped your toe into the sort of the pond of public consciousness, you would assume that we were in a deep recession and that, you know, we were indeed headed for civil war, and we're not. It's a bit grey outside, the government's rubbish, but life goes on.
Sure.
Right. And the other thing is just the last defense of the UK I would make is that, like, I think people who bash the UK do it just in sort of without context, in isolation, right? You have to compare the UK to everywhere else, right? And what I'm basically asking you, if you bash the UK, point me to somewhere you would rather live, or you would like rather
it's a fun game.
Yeah, you can bash the UK, but like
the comments is going to be full of people saying like tropical islands.
Please do, yeah, fine, go live on a tropical island. You know what I mean? But you know, you don't have. Well, I'm going to sound way too patriotic here.
Go on, get your flag out.
I think few countries have like as deep a sense of cultural history as the UK does, and I think that is something to be proud of.
It's crazy that as your hair grows out, you get more patriotic. It's the opposite of normal.
But yeah, so I think that, like, you know, I do think that I think this is true of any criticism of a country. It has to be in context, right? And there has to be some sort of international comparison that you know where you would rather be. Again, I'm not saying there aren't a whole litany of problems, but A, I think the mood music is too negative, and B, I think that compared to other countries, the UK really isn't doing that badly, right? I mean, again, you look at the US. I don't think I personally would not trade places with the US at the moment, right? Or France. France is in an infinitely worse fiscal situation than
France
we are.
Does have it
Germany
rough.
has been in genuinely a recession for like 4 years, you know, a per capita recession.
Yeah.
Canada has as well. The UK actually hasn't.
Canada's got bears and moose though.
Off. You piss off there then. So yes, that's a sort of like vague defense I would make of that video.
Okay.
And hopefully that came through, but I don't think the content is wrong about that. And I do think that it's good to have the occasional corrective to what can be some overwhelmingly negative mood music. People
seem to like it too. Like, I mean, obviously, dislike was fairly low, but there were a lot of comments saying like, "Oh, it's nice to have a bit of positivity."
Yeah,
and like, we're not going to do positivity for the sake of it. We're not going to say France is doing well.
No, God, no, they're fucked. That's probably not going to be a real country in a couple of years' time.
Final thing, we have a discussion on podcasts as well, which is a rarity. Well, it's a decreasingly rare, but it's still rare.
Do you want an intro?
I mean, so it's mainly Starmergeddon related, right?
It's just one episode of Starmergeddon.
It's one episode of Starmergeddon, but also broadly, there's questions around Starmergeddon, and it is actually addressed in our upcoming All Criticisms Responded To video, which comes out around this time every year. The latest episode or latest iteration of that is coming out probably next week.
Yeah.
And one of the things we'll be responding to that in that video is the accusation that maybe our content isn't biased, or fewer people are accusing the broad content of being biased as they used to. But Starmergeddon in particular, people think he's getting more biased. And I think
they think it's getting more biased. I didn't realize that was the case.
Yeah, I mean, I think people have. I mean, again, it's a small group of people
as well.
But definitely people are saying more, and also definitely I didn't see barely any comments about Starmergeddon last year and this year. Again, it's not that many, but like there are definitely more than last year.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't realize the volume had changed.
Kind of plays very well in time with last week's episode of Starmergeddon, which got an 89.6, which is to get one that doesn't begin with a 9.
That's pretty
crazy.
That's well done, guys.
So that is mainly about migration, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I think the topic is sort of by the by, but I think I actually want to say two things here. I mean, the first is actually, and we said this in that video that you were just teasing, right? We're going to put a video on Global where we talk about respond to hollow criticisms. That's something like an annual thing now we do, which is just that like the podcasts are just not edited in the same way that this is very clearly not edited.
No,
you know, and it's slightly off the cuff, and it's therefore should not be sort of seen as continuous with our content or probably shouldn't expect to be held to the same editorial standards of neutrality. But I think I would probably, even that being said, I would probably ask, I'm just sort of asking the audience here, like, do people personally feel that seeing our biases in podcasts undermines the rest of the content? I mean, I, in my own head, can create quite a strict delineation between like podcast chat, right, and the sort of quite heavily edited script content on the main channel. But like, if you have opinions, please do say, right? If you do find that it undermines the sort of the perceived neutrality of the main content, do say, because I would like to know. But my defense of it is that those two things are sort of just, one's edited and one isn't edited, right? So one will be neutral and one won't be.
Yeah, and it's difficult because I can see why it would. Like, I think having the same people appear on the same device saying like different tonal things, I don't know if that is necessarily obvious enough to everyone. And also I think even if people intuitively understand there is a difference between the two things, that like one is we're trying to be more careful with, one is opinion, I think obviously the people who are editing and writing those scripts, even if they are being more careful, if they are beginning to more openly reveal their views and you disagree with them, I can see why then you think, well, yeah, they're being as unbiased as they can, but like they think that, and that's crazy.
I don't know what I think about this, but do you think there's an argument the other way, right? In that like sometimes it's useful that everyone knows our various biases so that they can sort of
mentally correct.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds quite torturous to watch a YouTube video and then try and mentally accommodate for the biases that the host has.
I don't know. It's a good question. And I would also be interested to see the comments about what people say about this, because I also don't know what it does for the entire TLDR brand. Yeah. But I do find it slightly worrying.
Okay. I could see that. I think I was instinctively not worried, but the longer I sit on it, the more I think I worry a little bit about it. I think it's helped by the fact that no one watches the podcast.
Does help.
So thank you for that, guys.
Stick to it.
Fuck off.
Is that everything?
Yeah, I presume we got
3 minutes left.
Go
I
on,
believe. Although it's hard to tell because we did the little.
Was that including that bit?
That's not including that.
Okay, so probably more like 5.
Wait, no, I stopped the clock and restarted it.
Oh, you did stop the clock for that bit. Okay.
Okay, let's start with question number. So we're randomly selecting questions from the pool of questions that you've submitted in previous videos. So if you have questions, then let us know and we'll try and address them in the future. We'll start with question number 27.
Number.
Oh, okay. This is actually another thing we kind of address in the big criticism video. But why don't you cover New Zealand topics or issues in the Pacific more generally? Australia gets the odd mention, but never New Zealand. Our government is just as divisive as the rest of the West. From the treaty debates over mass public sector cuts or the soaring price of global dairy, there's lots of interesting topics.
I genuinely, that's such a boring answer to what is quite an open-ended question. I genuinely did want to do a video on New Zealand, but only because New Zealand is a fascinating innovator when it comes to lots of monetary and fiscal policy. New Zealand central bank independence is basically based off what happened to the New Zealand central bank really in the late 80s and early 90s. And for a long time, the New Zealand currency was the best performing currency in the world.
Wow.
So I did want to do a video on that. But I think that, to be honest, not in a rude way, but like in the same way that Australia doesn't get that much coverage and Canada doesn't get that much coverage, like sure, it is quite divisive, but everything's relative.
Yeah.
It's not that much going on.
Sure.
I would like to do more videos on them. I did notice that, what's his name? Economics Explained did a video on why everyone's leaving New Zealand, which was his best performing video for ages.
Oh, I also saw Wendover, or Half as Interesting, did a video about the quantity of New Zealanders in Australia, which I'm guessing is a similar tone, right? Like everyone in New Zealand is leaving. It's clearly, I don't know, is there like new data or something? Or it just become like a meme of everyone leaving? I don't know.
I think there are loads
I'm suddenly really aware of it as a phenomenon.
Yeah.
And I can't even tell them apart. I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Is that racist?
No, it doesn't count.
Okay.
Definitely doesn't count. Trump won. I don't know. I think that's my main takeaway. But also should we tease this now? Well, we did run some data, right? And I think that you'd actually be surprised to find out how.
Generally, you'd be surprised to find out. But I think in the last 100 videos, we did one video on Australasia, Oceania.
Oh, okay. Is that not in the
Pacific.
Asia category?
No,
okay.
there is only one video. So like broadly, you would be surprised. The data is interesting when you get to that video. But I think the idea that we don't cover Pacific countries that much is probably fair.
Yeah, but I guess what I'd say is that actually, if broadly speaking, the data suggests that we are quite diverse on topic selection.
Okay.
That's then your fault if you don't get in the list. Do you know what I mean?
I see. Interesting angle.
Yeah, because we are scanning.
Yeah.
But just nothing's happening.
Fine, okay.
Yeah.
Final question. Does anyone from the TLDR team have political ambitions to go further? Does anyone want to be an MP? And can you see yourself in a future cabinet or even leading the government?
I can
aiming low.
I can see myself leading the UK in very, very short time.
You reckon?
No.
You got him for it.
I think
if Andy Burnham can, you're as much of an MP as he is.
Very good. I honestly think it must be. I think it's been disappointing because we actually do spend a bit of time in the government now. Or we have spent time around politicians.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't know about you, but it's quite depressing. It looks like a depressing life.
It looks awful. Yeah.
I mean, utterly awful. The only thing that tempts, this is ridiculously arrogant to even say it in this sense. I don't mean it like this. But the only thing that tempts me is you do look at the quality of government and you just
it wouldn't be hard to be better than some of them.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, you could be a good MP.
But
would you want to?
But that's the thing is that I think we see this differently, right? Because you see it as in like there's a gap in the market, right? I could take their job, but I see it more as in like I think at some point you sort of have to maybe. I mean, this again, I didn't mean this arrogantly. I mean this for like smart people generally. If there are any smart young things out there, you sort of have to be like, at some point. I have a bit of a responsibility, you know what I mean? To just do it. Someone has to do it properly. Someone has to do it well. And, someone's got to just take one for the team and take a crap job.
Is there a gap in the market, though? Because that implies the public wants good politicians. And I'm not convinced they do.
That's true. And you probably have to, edge your way up some greasy pole somewhere to even get to
by the time you get there. I don't think if you're a good politician.
I sort of think that the way to do this is just like pick like the Lib Dems or someone, do you know what I mean? And just how hard can it be to get the Lib Dem leadership?
Probably we could.
Yeah, we could.
Good video series. By the end of next year, Ben will go down a water slide as Lib Dems leader.
I think, but I can't.
No is the answer.
No is for me, but I
awful.
think me and you are probably the biggest no's. I reckon maybe some of the writers have
Ben,
ambitions.
You want to be an MP? No. Rory?
Ben, but you'd love to be like a local councillor, right?
Also love to be. I don't think being a local councillor is that
would
difficult.
love to
Ben
be.
could be a local councillor if he wanted to.
Yeah. I think.
I reckon back in the day though, I'd have been a good MEP. What the f*** are you doing?
Of course you would have.
You're not doing much.
Yeah, it's great.
A nice big room.
Great expenses.
No one really knows what you're up to.
You just spent all day on the Eurostar, basically.
Yeah, and then you come back and it's vaguely like MEP's like, oh, that's like a real thing.
Yeah,
it still sounds pretty
like a real
good.
Thing. They normally get, I think, great jobs afterwards.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Well, also because they're not really tied up in party politics in the same way.
Like
you're not gonna. I mean, if you do something really bad, but otherwise you're not going to get pulled up in scandal. There's not going to be like a whole bunch of Tory MPs kicked out, all suddenly looking for jobs in the same market. If I lose my job as an MEP, no one really knew what I did in the first place.
That's very true.
And there's only like how many? There's only a handful of them. Well, total there's a lot.
Yeah, it's quite
but
a few.
Like not competing in my job pool.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's a dream job, isn't it? And
Well, that's my
Farage was one for a while.
I want to become any European. That's the country I move to, so that I can become an MEP.
That's not like Luxembourg.
What's the easiest place to become an MEP?
It must be Luxembourg.
They can't have many. Per capita, they probably have more. Do they have more per capita? Does it work like that? Is it like the Senate that you have like a minimum?
No, that's a good question. I think Luxembourg's the best bet though.
Okay. Don't really like Luxembourg though. Have you been?
I think I passed through.
That's enough.
Yeah.
Cut that out. No one's watching from Luxembourg. It's okay.
And if they are, they're commuting in. I mean, it's not like a real country.
It's true.
Yeah.
Free public transport though.
Yeah, but
which is
a
evidence.
tax haven.
Yeah,
it's
basically a theme park.
This is uncharacteristically like right wing of us. This is the sort of thing that be
Georgina
very
teed
like
us up for it.
spectator podcast. Yeah, we've got to balance things out, don't we? I was going to say
we can stop.
We probably should stop. I think Rory's the most electable of us. I think Rory would absolutely dominate an election.
That's true.
Thomas
has a populist energy to him, though.
Oh, what are we talking about? Yes, of course we have someone who's political ambitions.
Yeah, but Thomas runs as like a paper candidate for like local elections.
Tom is a member of the Green Party who runs as a Green Party councillor.
That is true.
He's an animator, so it
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter from like a biased perspective.
But so yes, we do have someone who I was talking to. I mean, he doesn't seem to think it's at all possible, but he's Zach Plansky is doing well in the polls. There is maybe there's a nearby universe where Tom sort of accidentally wins.
That would be funny.
Would be funny, wouldn't
We
it?
could send him around with a camera, find out what's going on in. Or
Yeah.
maybe edit that. I don't know if he wants us to know where it is. But anyway,
Yeah.
no, we don't want to be politicians.
No.
Least of all, leader. Awful.
I think if you
Awful.
could just teleport into it, but I think any of the greasy polling is just appalling, and also all the middle bits, right? Like being justice secretary, you're just getting battered day in day out.
Well, that's how they get so fucked up. By the time they've made it to the top,
They're
already
all
fucked up by being like junior housing minister.
There's a point in a
the lights want us to stop too.
no one's listening to this at this point. But there's a point in a question time debate where Russell Brand is asked, like in 2015 or whatever it is, and he's asked, well, why don't you run to be an MP? And he says, I'm going to do that.
Do the impression.
Yeah, he goes, I think I've become one of them. And everyone just boos him. And I actually think at that
he
time,
would become one. Ultimately, he did become one of them, just the other way around.
Yeah,
he became a lunatic.
And I probably booed him at the time, but I honestly think that he has something to that, right? I think that like you do become your job, and actually becoming an MP and coming out of it sane is very difficult and unlikely.
He's evidence of that.
Yeah,
he became his job.
Yeah,
a horrible right-wing shill.
He's
a Christian
elk
now.
or whatever he does.
Nothing against Christians, but not that kind of. There is something against that kind of Christian.
Okay.
Anyway, we're done.
This is going to have a lower like-dislike ratio than Starmergeddon.